Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Wednesday, October 14th, 2020. Today I'm going to recap yesterday's League Championship Series games in Major League Baseball and look ahead to today's games. Yesterday's lone NFL game, makeup game between the Bills and the Titans. College football, we have a college football game tonight. We're going to preview and predict that. My Week 6 NFL Power Rankings. Preview tonight's episode of The Masked Singer and my best bet of the day. All right, we'll start with baseball, League Championship Series, game number 2, Braves over the Dodgers 8-7. The Braves had to hold on to your life for that one. It turns out that insurance run in the 9th inning for Atlanta was needed, or else maybe we're talking about a 1-1 series as the Braves go up 2-0. Getting the win was Tyler Matzik. The loss, Tony Gonsolin and Mark Melancon to save. Top of the 4th, 2-run shot, Freddie Freeman, 2-0 Braves. Top of the 5th, RBI double, Christian Pache, 3-0. RBI single, Freddie Freeman, 4-0. Bases little walk, Travis d'Arnaud, 5-0. Sac fly, Ozzie Albies, 6-0. Top of the 7th, ground rule double, Dansby Swanson, 7-0. Bottom of the 7th, 3-run shot, Corey Seager, 7-3. Top of the 9th, home run, Ozzie Albies, 8-3 Braves. Bottom of the 9th, RBI double, Corey Seager, 8-4. 2-run shot, Max Muncy, 8-6. RBI triple, Cody Bellinger, 8-7. And then Melancon gets the last out, and the Braves avoid disaster. Ian Anderson, 4 innings, a hit, no one runs, 5 walks, 5 strikeouts. Then Tyler Matzik for 2, Darren O'Day for a third, AJ Minter for 2/3, Chris Martin for 1, Josh Tomlin for 2/3, he was terrible, and then Mark Melancon for a third. Tony Gonsolin, 4 1/3, 3 hits, 5 runs, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts. Pedro Baez a third, Dylan Floro a third, Jake McGee a 2/3, Alex Wood an inning and 2/3, Joe Kelly a third, and Adam Kolarek went for 1. Rays over the Astros 5-2 to take a 3-0 series lead. Ryan Yarbrough to win, Jose Urquidy to loss, Diego Castillo to save. Bottom of the 1st, home run, Jose Altuve, 1-0 Stros. Top of the 6th, after an egregious error by Jose Altuve, which would have been and should have been a double play. 2-run single, Joey Wendell, 2-1 Rays. Hit by Fitch, Willie Adames, 3-1 Rays. 2-run double, Hunter Renfroe, 5-1 Rays. Bottom of the 6th, home run, Michael Brantley, 5-2. And that was your ball game. Ryan Yarbrough, 5 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. Then Peter Fairbanks for 1, John Curtis for 1, Ryan Thompson for a third, Aaron Loup for 2/3, and Diego Castillo for 1. On the other side, Jose Urquidy, 5 innings, 4 hits, and a run, and walk, 4 strikeouts. Enoldi Paredes went a third, gave up 3 earned runs. Then Brooks Raley went 2/3. Josh James went 2. And Blake Taylor went 1. 2 games today, 6 o'clock, Fox Sports 1, Dodgers Braves, Julio Urias and Kyle Wright. That's an intriguing pitching matchup. 2 young guys. Urias has seen postseason time before as a long man out of the bullpen, but now they're using him as a starter. Kyle Wright, meanwhile, has been very good. Totals 9.5. So how about this? So the Dodgers are minus 184. The Braves are plus 158. Dodgers run line minus 1.5 is minus 118. And the Braves run line getting the 1.5 is at even money. This is a really hard call. The offenses came to life yesterday. Kyle Wright was promising this year. He made some strides. I think that the Braves at plus 158 is good value, but I'm not sure if Kyle Wright could pick off where Ian Anderson left off. The run line at plus 1.5 at even money is intriguing as well. The total's 9.5. And last night saw the offenses get going. And I'm going to go with the over. I don't feel good about it. I think the Dodgers get on the board in the series. 1-run game, maybe like a 6-5, 7-6 win for the Dodgers. So I'm going to go over 9.5 in Dodgers Braves. 8:40, Rays Astro, Tyler Glasnow and Zach Greinke. So Glasnow on normal rest after pitching on 2 days rest in that Yankees series. Greinke back for Houston. Rays run line -1.5 is +120. +1.5 for the Astros is -142. Astros are +126. Rays are -142. Over under 8. Over -102. Under -120. Zach Greinke pitched against the A's, and he really wasn't all that good, I don't think. If I'm not mistaken, it was Game 3 that he pitched. No, 0 to key. Maybe it was Game 1 and he pitched well. That was McCullers. Zach Greinke pitched the closeout game for the Stros, but wasn't impressive. 4 earned runs. So now it's at even money, the total at 8. I'm going to go with the over again. I know it's been all unders in this series. I could see a world where this is a 5-4 game either way. I'm gonna whiff on that, the Rays in 5. I'm gonna think they get it done tonight. But the play here for the show is gonna be over 8. So I'm gonna roll with that for my podcast pick. Now we'll recap your rare Tuesday night football game, which wasn't really that close. And the Tennessee Titans came out on top over the Buffalo Bills by a score of 42-16. Very impressive win for the Titans considering the circumstances. They're 4-0. The Bills are 4-1. Ryan Tannehill, 21-28, 195 yards, 3 touchdowns. Josh Allen, 26-41, 263 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 picks. Josh Allen, probably his worst game of the year. Didn't have Zach Moss in the backfield. Didn't have John Brown in the passing game, which hurt the Bills' offense. Meanwhile, Tennessee, this is about as good of a win you can get, considering your circumstances and COVID and you being off for so long. The practice facility wasn't even open for a majority of the time. And they come out and just kick ass. So, kudos to the Titans there. And that obviously that win will come a long way if they make the playoffs, getting the big in-conference win against the team that should be the favorite to win the AFC East in the Buffalo Bills. Now we'll do college football for tonight. Sun Belt game between Coastal Carolina and Louisiana. Louisiana is obviously a ranked team. They are 21st in the country. They're 3-0. Coastal's 3-0. 7:30 on ESPN. ULL, or now UL, is a 7-point favorite. I project UL to be favored by 14. I don't think Coastal Carolina is that good. So I'm laying the 7 with UL or 7.5, and I have value on the juice at -108. Total's 59.5. I project the total to be 56.5. So there's a little value on the under as well. So give me Louisiana Lafayette -7.5 and getting value at -108 with the price of it. So going against everybody and be contrarian here and take UL to get a win. I think they win this game by double digits, and this will be the first game where they're gonna be on the national stage, and I think that the cover could come late. And I also know that there's a possibility they get backdoored. But I still like it. I'm gonna lay the points with ULL here to remain undefeated. Now we'll do power rankings for week number 6 of the NFL. I actually had this done well before last night, and then I had to make a change because of the result of last night's game that I certainly was not expecting. And the theme of the power rankings this week is what I was right about and what I was wrong about. We're going to start at the bottom like we always do. Number 32, the New York Jets. What I was right about is that the defense would be worse without Jamal Adams. That's just stating the obvious. Anybody could score on that defense. And what I was wrong about is that Le'Veon Bell would have a bounce-back season. Well, he was cut yesterday, and they couldn't have been more wrong about that. 31, the New York Football Giants. What I was right about is that they'd be worse without Saquon Barkley. The offense has been terrible without him, with the exception of last week against Dallas. And what I was wrong about is Daniel Jones has regressed. I did not think that Daniel Jones would regress. I know the Barkley injury has a lot to do with it. The poor offensive line has a lot to do with it. Andrew Thomas has not played well, which hurts him. Sterling Shepard was also out as well. So the Daniel Jones regression was something I was certainly not seeing coming. Number 30, the Washington Professional Football Team. What I was right about is that Chase Young would make an impact. Chase Young's been very good. When he's on the field, their defense has shown somewhat of flashes. He was a big reason why they came from behind in week 1 against the Philadelphia Eagles. And what I was wrong about is that Dwayne Haskins has not improved. Dwayne Haskins was someone who I thought was going to be the best quarterback from this draft class, but I was way wrong. It looks like it's Kyler Murray. Heck, Gardner Minshew might be the second best quarterback of this draft class. I'll get to him later. But yeah, Dwayne Haskins not improving is something that I certainly didn't see coming, and now Kyle Allen's their starting quarterback. Number 29, the Jacksonville Jaguars. What I was right about is that they actually have nice wide receivers. DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault, D.D. Westbrook. Those are all young, promising receivers. But what I was wrong about is that Gardner Minshew might actually be decent. Yes, he had a rough couple games against the Dolphins and the Texans, but he was outstanding in week 1 against the Colts and week 2 and a loss against the Titans. He made the Titans work in that game in week number 2. So Gardner Minshew might actually be decent. The Jaguars might have themselves a quarterback. 28, the Cincinnati Bengals. What I was right about is that Joe Burrow will single-handedly keep them in games, as we saw against the Eagles in week number 3, although that was bad Eagles as well. Week 1 against the Chargers, he wasn't very good in that game, but at the same time, he kept them in it. He kept them in that Browns game in primetime in week 2. And the only bad game he's really had was last week against a good defense in the Ravens. And what I was wrong about is that their offensive line has not improved. Jonah Williams, first-round pick from last year, he's been okay, but he hasn't single-handedly made that unit better. Not that I thought that he was going to make that unit single-handedly better, but I thought that offensive line would be a little bit better because of his presence. 27, the Atlanta Falcons. What I was right about, the Calvin Ridley emergence. Calvin Ridley is a WR1. Whether you like it or not, he's a WR1. But the issue is that Julio Jones is still on this team, and he is still treated like a WR1. I mean, Julio's still very good, but Calvin Ridley is on his way to being the next great Atlanta Falcons wide receiver, if he isn't already. And what I was wrong about, Matt Ryan is not great anymore. He's just not. He had one good game against the Cowboys, and then that was just a team collapse in week number 2. He couldn't take advantage of a bad Panthers defense last week. He wasn't bad against the Seahawks in week 1, But I just don't think he's great anymore. And now there's talks about them trading Matt Ryan and going for Trevor Lawrence. By the way, if they traded Matt Ryan, the Falcons automatically become the worst team in the league. And Matt Ryan, I just don't think is great anymore. Number 26, the Denver Broncos. What I was right about is that the injuries would derail the team. So many injuries, week after week. Drew Lock, Von Miller, Cortland Sutton, Phillip Lindsay, Noah Fant. Like, the injuries are literally ruining their season. And what I was wrong about with the Broncos is that they are not winless. They're somehow still not winless. And that's because the Jets are pitiful. I thought the Jets should have beaten them a couple weeks ago due to all those injuries and whatnot. But no, that's when it really kind of dawned on me about the Jets' defense being like more of a dumpster fire than their offense, quite frankly. Because Sam Darnold played well in that game, and they still lost. And I thought that they were going to win that game against Denver, and that the Broncos would still be winless. So that's where I was wrong about them. 25, the Detroit Lions, where I was right. They'd be a disappointment. Of course, they're the Lions. Matt Patricia's still their coach. They still have holes on their defense. There are a lot of prognosticators that took them to win the NFC North this season, which I thought was lunacy. Yeah, their offense has some pieces, but their defense still is trash. Their coach is not good. And what I was wrong about, I talked about their defense being terrible, but someone that's been a disappointment was Jeff Okudah. He's been MIA. I thought that actually he'd be a bright spot in their defense. He hasn't. He's been terrible this season. 24, the Miami Dolphins. What I was right about is that their running game has improved. But the funny thing is that I don't think anybody thought it would be Myles Gaskin that'd be the guy. I mean, I thought it'd be the Jordan Howard-Matt Breida combo, but they have three guys that are capable, and now one of those two veterans are going to be traded, and this is probably Myles Gaskin's team. But yeah, their running game is absolutely improved. And what I was wrong about is that Fitzpatrick is still Fitzmagic. That's where I was wrong. I thought that he'd be Fitztragic most of the year, like we saw in week 1, and sort of in week 2, but he was actually okay in the Bills game. That we'd see Tua by now, but hey, the offense put up 2 monster games, one against the 49ers and one against the Jaguars, so I guess that's okay with the ride with Fitzpatrick for a couple more weeks. But yeah, I was wrong about the offense being somewhat good with Fitzpatrick, but what I was right about was improved running game, albeit I didn't think that it would be Myles Gaskin, and I did think it would be the two vets in Breida and Jordan Howard. Number 23, the Houston Texans. What I was right about is that Bill O'Brien would finally lose his job in 2020. He was the worst general manager in football. Now that title belongs to New York's Dave Gettleman with this firing. I just think he was a terrible GM. I mean, he won games as a coach, but his general managing efforts is what really held this team back. And I thought that he'd be fired this year, so he was fired, and I got that right. What I was wrong was Will Fuller. I did not expect him to emerge into a true WR1. He really has done that thus far, and he's able to stay healthy. So good on Will Fuller. 23, the Philadelphia Eagles. What I was right about is that the offensive line absences would hurt. Andre Dillard being hurt, big blow. And then one of their other starting linemen was hurt as well. Brandon Brooks. Actually, no, he opted out because of COVID. So the losses of Brooks and Dillard obviously have hurt the line. Lane Johnson not 100%. And what I was wrong about is that the secondary still isn't better, sans the addition of Darius Slay. Their secondary was badly exposed against the Steelers. Granted, the Steelers are good offensively, but their secondary was awful in that game. I mean, wait till they see Dallas's offense in a couple weeks. I mean, their secondary wasn't that great in the second half against the Washington professional football team. The Rams lit up their secondary in week 2. Even Nick Mullins had a little bit of success against them in week 4, and he's terrible. And then, obviously, in week 3, they played the Bengals. Joe Burrow had moments against them, but the secondary wasn't a disaster in that game. But yeah, against the Rams and the Steelers, their secondary was atrocious. Number 21, the Dallas Cowboys. What I was right about is that CeeDee Lamb would make an immediate impact. He hasn't had that truly breakout game yet, but I think it's coming. He's really been a factor in this offense. And what I was wrong about is that their defense would be the worst in football, even without Leighton Vander Esch. Their defense is a joke. They let the Saquon Barkley-less Giants hang 27 points against them. Well, 7 of those came from their defense because Dak threw a pick 6. But then they let some other bad offenses hang points on them as well. I mean, Russell Wilson, the Seahawks, that's a good offense. Their defense's best performance was in week 1 against the Rams. Their defense was actually okay in that game. And that was the game Van Der Esch got hurt in, if I'm not mistaken. And he played a little bit in that game. So I guess once he comes back, their defense will get better than what it is, which I truly believe that. I think Van Der Esch is a truly difference maker, but I certainly didn't think their defense would be the worst in the league without him. San Francisco 49ers, I have at number 20. What I was right about is that they'd missed Nick Bosa, and while he was out, Jimmy Garoppolo. If Jimmy Garoppolo played in that Eagles game, they'd probably win that game. But he was terrible against the Dolphins. But I don't think he deserved to be benched. That was just a major overreaction. Their defense was also really bad in that game, and that's where the loss of Nick Bosa comes in. That loss really came back and hurt him in that Dolphins game and against the Eagles, as well as Garoppolo's. They didn't miss him against the New York teams. And then he played in week 1 against the Cardinals. And what I was wrong about them is that no one really has emerged as a true WR1. Brandon Ayuk, the rookies, had some moments. Deebo Samuel, I still don't think he's a true number 1. I think that's what they're banking on. Number 19, the Carolina Panthers. What I was right about is that DJ Moore's emergence as a WR1. I thought that he had a chance this year to make that jump, and he certainly has. Him and fellow NFC South receiver Calvin Ridley. And what I was wrong about is that Christian McCaffrey has not been missed. I mean, if anything, this is a Ewing theory team. Remove Christian McCaffrey and you're automatically better. That is stunning to me that this offense has not missed its quarterback in Christian McCaffrey. Yes, I call him the quarterback of the offense because I looked at this team before the season like that Christian McCaffrey was their most important and impactful player on either side of the ball. But no, they haven't missed him. Teddy Bridgewater's played well. Moore's emergence has been very good. Ian Thomas is not a bad tight end. Number 18, the Minnesota Vikings. What I was right about is that their defense would regress due to key personnel losses. Heck, Xavier Rhodes, he was terrible last year. He's actually been decent for the Colts this year, so they've missed him. They also lost Mackenzie Alexander. They lost that other cornerback, I'm blanking on his name. Cam Dantzler, they're banking on to be an impact guy for them. and the TCU kid as well. But I think time will tell on those guys. And then Daniil Hunter hasn't played a down all year, and he might miss the season. And what I was wrong about is that I thought that this offensive line would improve. It hasn't. The offensive line has not improved. Their year 2 center really has not taken that next step. Dalvin Cook has had some moments, but I don't see much improvement from this offensive line at all. Number 17, the Los Angeles Chargers. What I was right about is that they'd miss Derwin James. Their defense stinks without Derwin James. He's out for the season. I think that injury could cost them a playoff spot. And what I was wrong about is that Justin Herbert looks like the real deal. I didn't think we'd see much of Justin Herbert this year. I thought that it was going to be a lot of Tyrod Taylor. But way wrong I was, and Justin Herbert gives this team a better chance to win than Tyrod Taylor, and they're sticking with Herbert, and they should. Although he's had some rookie moments during that bad interception against the Chiefs that cost him that Chiefs game. He was terrible against the Panthers. He was very good the last 2 weeks, and we'll see how he looks going forward. Number 16, the Las Vegas Raiders. What I was right about is that their defense is not that improved. Let's be honest. They gave up a bunch of points to the Panthers in week 1, albeit they still had McCaffrey. They gave up a lot of points to the Patriots. They gave up a lot of points even in a win against the Chiefs. They gave up a lot of points to the Bills. And the other game the Raiders played, against the Saints, they gave up some points in that game. But that was probably their best defensive game of the year. But yeah, their defense, I don't think, has improved at all. And what I was wrong about, Darren Waller is not a one-year wonder. I thought there was a possibility that Darren Waller would be a one-year wonder for the Raiders, but he's not. He's the real deal, and he's a top 10 tight end in the NFL, arguably top 5. 15, the Arizona Cardinals. What I was right about is that their offensive line still isn't good. I just don't think that unit's good at all. Although the line as a whole had a good performance against the Jets last week. Let's be honest. It was against the Jets. Go up against Aaron Donald and talk to me then. And DJ Humphries has actually been good this year to their credit, but their offensive line still isn't good. And what I was wrong about, Isaiah Simmons still isn't involved in a good way. I mean, Isaiah Simmons, they tried him out for a couple plays against the Jets. He's been terrible. I'm very disappointed in Isaiah Simmons this year. 14, the Chicago Bears. What I was right about is that Nick Foles should have been the guy the whole time. They probably still have the same record. They probably beat the Lions by more. They probably kill the Giants. They probably still beat the Falcons. Week 4 is just a letdown spot after that comeback against the Falcons. And then they beat Brady and the Bucs. Should have been Nick Foles the whole time. And what I was wrong about is that Jimmy Graham is not washed. Jimmy Graham has actually been very good for this offense. And this is the best I've seen Jimmy Graham probably since his New Orleans days. Number 13, the New England Patriots. What I was right about is that Cam Newton was a good signing. Cam Newton has made a positive impact. If he played in that Chiefs game, they win that game. But no, he had COVID, and they go to Brian Hoyer, then Jarrett Stidham afterwards, and they lose. And the absence of Newton really came back and hurt him in that game. And they almost beat Seattle in Seattle. And that's because of Newton. And Newton is playing like he was in his prime days at the Panthers. So I think it was a good signing by the Patriots. And I certainly thought that he'd have a chip on his shoulder this year. And what I was wrong about is that N'Keal Harry has not improved this year. I thought N'Keal Harry would make a year 2 jump. He has not. Somebody said that he's the Calvin Benjamin for Cam Newton on this team, which isn't a bad comparison because Kelvin Benjamin, we were waiting to make the jump and he hadn't. Number 12, the Indianapolis Colts. What I was right about is that Jonathan Taylor would be involved. He's had an impact on this Colts offense for sure, and I thought so even before Marlon Mack tore his ACL. And what I was wrong about, Phillip Rivers looks washed. I certainly thought that an improved offensive line and a new situation would rejuvenate Rivers, but I look like I'm wrong right now. He was bad in the Browns game. He was bad in the Jaguars game. I know there's people saying if they had Jacoby Brissett, they'd be undefeated. I disagree with that. If they had Jacoby Brissett, they probably would have the same record, in my opinion, because they went up against the Vikings and the Jets. But the reason why their record is what it is because of their defense. Their defense is very good, but their defense was not good against the Browns because they lost Darius Leonard. And I'm blanking on the other game they played and they won. Vikings, Jets, Browns. I keep thinking, who did they play in week 4? Think of it on the tip of my tongue. The Colts' opponent in week 4 was the Bears. And Rivers wasn't even good in that game either. And that's funny because we were just talking about the Bears in that Colts game. Yeah, Rivers wasn't even that good in that game either. So if they had Jacoby Brissett, I still think they have the same record. And that's mainly due to its defense being very good. Number 11, the New Orleans Saints. What I was right about is that Emmanuel Sanders being a good pickup. He's been wonderful for this offense. He really has stepped up in the absence of Michael Thomas. And he still is a good football player. And what I was wrong about, Drew Brees also looks washed. I mean, he kind of silenced doubters in the wins against the Chargers and the Lions by bringing his team back to win those games. But in the first halves of those games, he looked washed. And there are some other games he looked washed too. He was actually okay in the Bucs game in week 1. He didn't look great in week 2 against the Raiders, and then week 3 against the Packers, they put up points. So maybe I'm wrong about Drew Brees. Maybe that's just an overreaction, but there's been points this year where he's looked washed. Number 10, the Cleveland Browns. What I was right about is the offensive line improvement. The drafting of Jedrick Wills, the signing of Jack Conklin, I knew that offensive line would improve. And there's been a couple other guys on that line. Wyatt Teller, big improvement in year. He's made a jump. So the offensive line has absolutely been better. And what I was wrong about, Odell Beckham Jr. has not been a distraction yet. I mean, that's a big reason why they're 4-1. You would have thought there would have been something by now that would have derailed this team, but there hasn't. Week 1 was a disaster, and they haven't looked back. They've won 4 straight games, and they really look like a team that's going to make the playoffs. Number 9, the Los Angeles Rams. What I was right about, Aaron Donald is still a beast. Aaron Donald's still destroying offensive lines, and he should be the runaway favorite for the Defensive Player of the Year right now. What I was wrong about is that Jared Goff and the offense looking like 2-3 years ago at times. I was down on the Rams a little this year because I was down on Jared Goff after what was a weird year for him last year, and I just don't really think he's a franchise quarterback. But that offense has looked very good this year. It's had one bad game all year, and now it's against the Giants in a game which I thought they took the Giants for granted. And then in week 1 against Dallas, had some moments as well. And then they dominated against the Redskins. They dominated against the Eagles. And then they had the good second half against the Bills. So yeah, this offense is elite, and that's something I was certainly wrong about. Or borderline elite. Number 8, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What I was right about, Their front seven is excellent. Jason Pierre-Paul, Ndamukong Suh. The loss of Vita Vea absolutely hurts them. I think it came back to bite him on a team that runs the ball very well. But their front seven is still very good. Levante David's in there as well. And what I was wrong about, Tom Brady still looks old and somewhat washed. I know his receivers haven't been great or healthy this year, so maybe that has a lot to do with it. He's thrown a couple pick sixes. He had the brain fart at the end of that Bears game on Thursday night. So he still doesn't look like Tom Brady to me, even though Pro Football Focus seems to think that he's been wonderful this season. I mean, there's been moments where he's looked like the old Tom Brady, like that first drive of that Saints game in week 1. That Chargers game was his best game, certainly. And I think there's a chance he looks like the Tom Brady we know and love on Sunday against a Packer defense that I think is overrated. 7, the Buffalo Bills. What I was right about is that Stephon Diggs is what Josh Allen needed. The improvement of Josh Allen has been awesome and fun to watch. And I thought that the addition of Stephon Diggs would really help Josh Allen and that offense. And what I was wrong about is that their defense is mediocre. I did not certainly think that their defense would be mediocre, and it's been. And it was bad yesterday. And then it was bad in the second half against the Rams the other day. It looked good against the Jets, but every defense is going to look good against the Jets. It looked good against the Raiders. That actually looks like a good defensive performance because the Raider offense is good. And then the Dolphins had some good moments, but the Dolphins still put up a good number of points against them. But yeah, their defense has been surprisingly mediocre this year. Tre'Davious White being injured certainly does not help that cause. Number 6, the Tennessee Titans. What I was right about is that Derrick Henry will get his touches and still look like a beast. He is the man on this team. He is their backbone. And he is somebody that is the leader in the clubhouse right now of running backs matter. I mean, Saquon Barkley too, because their offense got worse, as I mentioned earlier. But I still think running backs matter, and that's why the Panthers being 3-2 without Christian McCaffrey is so stunning. And that really is making the running backs don't matter crew speaking up. And what I was wrong about, Ryan Tannehill has not regressed. He's been excellent since becoming the starting quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. That contract I thought was hideous when they gave it to him, but he's lived up to the contract. They're 4-0, and he's been very good. He was awesome last night. He was really good against the Vikings in that second half comeback. He was very good against the Jaguars. Week 1, he wasn't good against Denver. And obviously, Steven Gostkowski almost single-handedly lost them that game. But they came away with the win. They're 4-0, and they should be proud of themselves. Number 5, the Pittsburgh Steelers. What I was right about is that Ben Roethlisberger is back to his old self. The reason why the Steelers did not make the playoffs last year is because Ben Roethlisberger was hurt. Now Ben Roethlisberger is healthy, and the team is 4-0. And what I was wrong about, Minkah Fitzpatrick and that secondary has not been that good. I'm very disappointed in that secondary and really that defense as a whole. I mean, the Giants even put together some drives against that defense, although that defense made some plays on Daniel Jones in week 1 to prevent them from scoring and all that. And then, obviously, last week against the Eagles, they let the Eagles hang around. Also, the Texans put up some points against them in the first half of that game in week number 3. Jeff Driscoll put up some points against them in week number 2. So, yeah, their defense, especially their secondary, has not been that good this year. And I've seen a little bit of regression out of Minkah Fitzpatrick. Number 4, the Baltimore Ravens. What I was right about is that the defense with Mr. Earl Thomas, it came back to bite him in the Chiefs game, as the Chiefs did whatever they wanted against them. Yeah, their defense played well in week 1 and last week. But when it mattered against the Chiefs, or when it truly mattered, the loss of Earl Thomas came back and haunted them. And in week 2, they played the Texans, and even the Texans put up some points against them too. So Earl Thomas really has been missed by the Ravens. And what I was wrong about, Lamar Jackson not developing as a passer. I mean, we saw a lot of that last year. And I feel like he's regressed as a passer this year, and that's disappointing to me. And we saw that against the Chiefs, in which he had a disastrous game. He really wasn't that good against the Bengals last week. So yeah, Lamar Jackson's regression and not really developing as a passer this year really has been something I was wrong about. Number 3, the Green Bay Packers. What I was right about is that their defense has regressed. Yeah, they're undefeated, but their defense stinks. Their defense almost blew that game against the Vikings in week 1 after Aaron Rodgers came out and laid it to them. Their defense stunk in that game. Their defense stunk against the Saints. I think there's a chance their defense stinks if everybody from the Bucs is healthy this week. They had a bye last week against the Lions. In week number 2, there were some garbage points there in that game, and if I'm not mistaken, the Lions led at points in that game. They're at 14-3 after 1, and then their defense didn't have to do anything. Their defense was good against Atlanta, though. I got to give them that, though, on Monday Night Football a few weeks ago. But Matt Ryan still threw for some yards against them, and the Falcons made some mistakes offensively in that game, which really came back to bite them. So I think their defense hasn't been as good as it was last year, and it's their offense that's really the reason why they're undefeated. Number 2, the Seattle Seahawks. What I was right about is that their defense still isn't good. Jamal Adams hasn't played a lot. I know that hurts their defense, but even with Jamal Adams, their defense let up a lot of points against New England. I believe he played against Dallas, and their defense let up a lot of points against Dallas. And then Atlanta scored points against them in week 1. The Vikings scored a lot of points against them last week. And their pass rush is just abysmal. And what I was wrong about, Greg Olsen's not watched. Greg Olsen's actually been decent for Seattle this year, surprisingly. I thought he was done, and I thought that he should have been the broadcast booth. But no, he's made a positive impact for the Seattle offense. And number 1, despite having a loss, the Kansas City Chiefs. What I was right about is that Clyde Edwards-Helaire would be an impact rookie. Yeah, some people are saying that they're using him incorrectly, and I'm probably still riding that week 1 game against the Texans, but he's been very good in this offense for sure, and I think he'll continue to be good. And what I was wrong about is that they lose as a double-digit home favorite against the Raiders. I mean, there really hasn't been things I was wrong about the Chiefs. I mean, I thought that their defense wasn't that great, but that could have been where I was right on the Chiefs. But I feel like I've used defense regression, or defense isn't good for a lot of these teams, so I want it to be different here. And I certainly didn't expect them to lose as a double-digit favorite with Patrick Mahomes healthy at all, perhaps in Patrick Mahomes' career. So there you have it, my week 6 power rankings and where I was right and what I was wrong. Now we'll preview Masked Singer for tonight. Group B returns. Obviously, the crocodile, the baby alien, the seahorse, the whatchamacallit, and the serpent. Gremlin got voted off a couple weeks ago where he inexplicably took his mask off without permission. He would have been voted off anyway. He was terrible. He sang Stand By Me by Benny King, and it was Mickey Rourke. So crocodile hints. There were 3 heart balloons talking about growing up in Hollywood. There's an Italian flag. There's a rainbow, maybe LGBTQ. There's a fountain. There's a hotel, and says that he wants to be loved. He performed It's My Life by Bon Jovi. And my first impression guess was Bon Jovi, even though there hasn't been somebody that's sang their own song on The Masked Singer yet, but it did sound like Bon Jovi, and it sounded like I was listening to a live Bon Jovi concert. But due to some of the hints, and there are some Boston hints in there as well, my guess as of right now could change in 24 hours from now. My guess is Donnie Wahlberg, the husband of Jenny McCarthy and the OG of New Kids on the Block. Robin agrees with me. Nicole thinks it's Nick Lachey, and Ken thinks it's John Hamm. And those were the guesses of week 1. Baby Alien, episode 2. I meant week 1 for Group B. Baby Alien, they showed a classroom talking about being stuck in second gear. The Tony Award stage, New York City. There's a bell, maybe that's a Philadelphia reference. Performed Faith by George Michael. My first impression guess was Taylor Zakar Perez, who plays Marco in The Kissing Booth. It just sounded like him, and obviously Zakar Perez sang in The Kissing Booth too. And I just thought it sounded like him. Jenny thought it was Ralph Macchio. Nicole threw out Dave Schwimmer, and Ken went with Freddie Perez Jr. Seahorse talks about being at a beach. There is a rainbow frog. Maybe that's an LGBTQ reference. There's a duck. There are 2 dogs. There's an OK Corral. There's a very Midwest vibe. There are sharks. She ends up being a dauntless diva within. There's an emotion ocean sign. And there was a harness there. So that obviously is a country hint. She performed Only Girl in the World by Rihanna, and she was outstanding. My first impression guess was Britney Spears because she's like, la, 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 la. Like how Britney Spears likes to sing. And that's obviously the beginning in her song, If You Seek Amy. When she goes, la, 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 la. But I don't think it's Britney Spears. That was just my first impression because of those first couple notes. My actual guess is Carrie Underwood. But the funny thing is that one of the judges guessed Carrie Underwood for The Sun. And it could be the astronaut turtle thing from last season all over again, where I thought the astronaut was Jesse McCartney, and the turtle turned out to be Jesse McCartney. So it could be that situation all over again. That'd be kind of funny. But yeah, I think the seahorse is Carrie Underwood. It sounds a lot like her. And obviously she sang on American Idol. So she's shown that she's could be not just country, although she chose to go in the country direction because that's what fits her too, by the way. But she's just super talented. I think that to this day she was the best ever American Idol winner. Jenny McCarthy went with Halsey. Nicole Scherzinger went with Haley Steinfeld, who is a good singer, but this girl can really sing. But I don't know if it's Haley Steinfeld. That'd be really impressive if it was Haley Steinfeld. And Robin Thicke went with BB Rexa. The whatchamacallit. There was a Candyland theme. There was a sun. There was a rainbow. Hinted at being shy. Absorbing spotlight. Hinted about Dancing with the Stars. There were surfing clues and there were keys in there. And there was a clock in the hint that had Sarah Palin's bare head from last year. 4.0, a 12, a 61, a 2, a 7, an 8. There's a triangle, and there's a record. And he performed I Wish by Skee-Lo. My first impression guess was Draymond Green because I immediately thought about NBA because there was a shot clock or there was a clock in the package, and that could have been a reference to shot clock. So I went with Draymond Green because I thought of the absorbing the spotlight hint because obviously he's the third wheel on the Warriors and was the fourth wheel when Kevin Durant was there. But the more I thought about it, there's that hint about being shy and the perception that he's shy. Draymond Green is not perceived to be shy. Kawhi Leonard is. And that's why I think the whatchamacallit is Kawhi Leonard of the Los Angeles Clippers. And the absorbing the spotlight hint could refer to the idea that LeBron James also plays in Los Angeles. So he's the second star in Los Angeles behind LeBron James. Nicole Scherzinger went with Swiss Beats. Robin Thicke went with Tyler, the Creator. And Ken Jeong went with Portland Trailblazers star Damian Lillard, which isn't a bad guess because obviously Dame has a rap album. So it could be Dame. You could be right there. And then the Serpent there are hints about Pirates of the Caribbean, hints about being a troublemaker. There's a musicology hint. There's a medicine hint. There's Serpent Senior in the clue package, so this could be a junior. And this talented contestant saying, I'm going to be 500 miles by the Proclaimers. My first impression guess was Usher, because I think it's someone that's very talented under the Serpent mask. And Usher is known for his rapping, but Usher can sing, man. I think Usher is very talented, and I think there's a shot that Usher could be under the Serpent mask. Jenny McCarthy went with John Legend, which I think was a good guess. That would be a big get for the show, too, as would Usher. Ken Jeong went with Daveed Diggs, and Nicole Scherzinger went with Leslie Odom Jr. The contestant that I think gets voted off tonight is the whatchamacallit, and I think it's going to be Kawhi Leonard. And I'm going to come on the podcast tomorrow and fist pump and say, hell yeah, I was right. So that's going to be fun tomorrow when the baby alien gets voted off and it's somebody we weren't expecting, and I'm completely wrong about this. So go figure, I would say, if that scenario that I just mentioned ends up being the case about baby alien being somebody we don't expect. And last but not least, my best bet of the day, brought to you by FanDuel. I'm going with Louisiana minus the 7.5 against Coastal Carolina. I think Coastal Carolina is an overrated 3-0. Maybe they're improved. Maybe they prove me wrong, and maybe they go out and win the game outright or something. But I think ULL is better. So give me ULL minus 7.5 against Coastal Carolina for my best bet of the day. That's it for the show today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping the LCS and college football and looking ahead to tomorrow's games in each of those sports, and baseball and college football. I might do NHL power rankings tomorrow where things stand post the beginning of free agency and after the draft. I'm going to recap the Masked Singer, and obviously my best bet I'll have for you tomorrow as well. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.